Good morning, welcome, thanks for coming and listening.
Who am I? It's the first question I always have whenever I watch anyone speak. Who's this guy? What's he going on about? So, I'm a rapper and author. The most successful thing I've done previously was something called jogging and dogging. You can kind of tell the kind of level that I was on at the time. It was basically a series of diaries about the peccadillos and exploits of a young man in London making it as a musician. So it was very autobiographical. I'm a rum enthusiast. I'm a part-time creator. I'm very precious. I also have a day job. So all of this stuff I've done has been around a job that I was working on. I have a short attention span and I can be pretty slack about details. So I'm just saying this to put you in context so you see some of my failures that come later in the proper context. And some of the successes. But I can also be serious. I'm a writer. See, I've got my cards here. All writers know about these. If you're sequencing your scenes, that was me on holiday somewhere finishing a scene for the first novel, City of Conspiracy, that was due to come out. I needed a draft and I was busily trying to rearrange a plot point there. But as I said, it's not all serious. These are some of the projects I worked on, like Yam and Banana. This is a story here called Devil's Brew. It was about a night I woke up in somebody's car in Finchley and I had no idea how I got there. And I had some implements around me, and so a friend of mine drew this for me, and it's kind of emblematic of what I was doing at the time. I hope that puts you in the picture as to what kind of creative I was when I entered this process. I wasn't coming at it from a vastly sophisticated, knowledgeable position. I was pretty amateur, newbie to transmedia. In fact, I didn't really know that there was such a thing as transmedia. I just knew that I wrote, I knew I made music, and at some point, I wanted to fuse the two things. So, my first attempt was this. This is the artwork for it. It was called the Blackout Diaries, and it was another extension of this thing of me finding ways to put my experiences into creative things. And it was a series of diaries and songs that went together with it. And this was the artwork for it, featuring an adult actress that we'd chosen to use, a friend of mine. But I ask you, who here is a conspiracy theorist? Is there anybody who would self-identify as a conspiracy theorist? Okay, a conspiracy, if you take it from the Latin definition of it, comes from conspiro, those who breathe together, who are working with the idea, who believe that there are people in society acting together without the knowledge of wider society being considered. And I've put it to you that most of you are conspiracy theorists because I've met thousands of people through my project who would self-identify as not conspiracy theorists, and they come an hour later and start telling me all this stuff that they believe in. And I'm sure you're all just the same. So I ask, is it the New World Order that fluoridates the water to subdue the population and keep everybody poorer, taking liberties with organizations that ain't innocent? And when I hear about these sects, I get militant. Is it the CFR and Bilderbergers that endorse slavery? Do governments kill and murder? Do governments tell lies that sound like alibis while 9/11 conspiracies are brushed under the carpet? And the market's controlled by heartless bastards, gambling with your home for a bonus, and their asses need to be locked up. Economy's fucked up. Millions across this planet right now are starving. I don't really know what kind of shit that you're starting, but in my heart, I know I gotta ask questions. Like Marvin Gaye, what can I say? Except I gotta know the truth, you gotta know it too. So what is City of Conspiracy? Well, I've got some sort of metaphors that informed my practice as I went along. As I said, it's a multi-platform project, so the obvious metaphor for me was that of an onion. Onions, multi-layered, you peel off the different layers. As you engage with conspiracies at different layers, you're kind of finding new information. But also, as you engage with the different bits, it's like unpeeling the onion, like finding new bits of information, whether it's a rap song that communicates a story point, whether it's an immersive theater event that communicates another story point that's linked to the wider narrative. So the onion was the first metaphor that informed me. The second was those long, dark nights where after maybe inhaling substance, you try to scare yourself online by going and watching those YouTube videos. You know, I'm sure you're all aware of those YouTube videos of conspiracy theorists that are like borderline psychosis, maybe part horror film, but also at the same time, they have that same element of that could be true, you know. So that was the aim of what my project was. I thought I'm going to bring that to the table. But in more prosaic terms, City of Conspiracy is a multi-platform experience fusing the mechanics of a thriller with the immersing and disturbing mannerisms of the conspiracy theory culture. There's a widespread feature of popular consciousness, all in the aim of good old-fashioned entertainment. And so far, it has featured a series of novels. Well, actually, that's a lie. One's written, what more to come. So a series is a stretch of the truth. A series of immersive theatre events, that's true. There have been more than one of those, detailing subplots in the first novel, which is tentatively entitled Sherlock Delgado and the Illuminati Bitches. And the tagline for the whole project is Dan Brown meets Harry Potter with more black people. So we're really trying to, I'm trying to fuse, like I say, the high and the low in it. That's my aim. That's what I'm going for. So there are albums of rap music written from the perspective of characters in the story world. You see, this is artwork for a track called Bloody Dem Walls by a group called the Murdermans. But, you know, there's also stuff that's specifically conspiracy orientated as well. But this is from the point of view of some villains in the story world. I've done a conspiracy-themed walking tour involving scenes in the novel. So you walk around bits of London and you hit areas of London where there are conspiracies anyway, like Freemasons Hall or whatever, but also that I've used as canvas for the novel, for the story world. I've done a text-based pitch game that allows like faux big shots to simulate investment in Illuminati-owned companies. I went to sort of a pitch event and I thought, how could I interestingly pitch this idea? So I created a text game where you can either invest in me or not, and you learn that actually this company is owned by people who are related to the Illuminati. So it's had a lot of disparate elements, and it's given me some revenue streams which I didn't anticipate when I first started. I mean, to be honest with you, I thought this was going to be a marketing strategy, and that started earning money and generating other things, but it will come to that as we go along. What was I trying to achieve? Well, I really wanted to learn new skills, but I had like a very modest revenue goal to start off with. £10,000. I wanted increased presence and visibility from my egotistical self as a creator. I wanted to learn new skills, and I wanted to create some innovative IP. That's intellectual property, right? Just checking. Really what I wanted, though, was this effect. Now, this photo was taken at an event called the Bilderberg Group, which happened at Watford in 2013. The Bilderberg Group is a secret shadowy elite that run the world. You believe that whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not. This was attended by George Osborne and David Cameron, and also many heads of big companies. And in the middle of this scrum, this melee, is not a famous person. It's just there are two conspiracy stars behind all these people. There's Alex Jones, who's an American sort of blowhard who shouts a lot. And there's David Icke, who used to be Coventry City's goalkeeper. And he's now a very respected conspiracy theorist. I mean, he went on Wogan about 20 years ago and announced he was the son of Jesus Christ while he was wearing a shell suit. He was ridiculed for 30 years later, but now he fills 10,000-seat arenas. Wembley Arena, people go and see him. It's amazing. And they're at the center of this. And I kind of thought, around my project, I wanted this kind of conversation happening without it necessarily being about, oh, are these real things? It's just like, let's examine conspiracies, examine notions of truth through the medium of fiction. I didn't want it to be a strictly factual project because I thought there's enough misinformation out there from every side that you come to. So, how did it happen is the next thing. Well, this is a sort of timeline of it. I realized in doing this presentation that I've always actually been working on this project, but I just didn't realize it. So in 1996, when I was in my teens, I wrote my first unpublished novel, which featured the same themes, character, archetypes, and idiom. There was magic, there were conspiracy theories, it was set in London, even though I wasn't living in London at the time. And yeah, that was what I did first. I joined later on in the 2000s, I joined a girl band called the Super Blondes. Now they had a very interesting take on what you'd call transmedia. They were into the whole idea of events and merchandising going beyond music. So they were taking like some intellectual property or content and they were thinking, how can we monetize this? It was a ridiculous project. It was me standing in the middle and there were like 4 sort of glamour models that used to prance up and down. And I had to rap in the middle of that. But I left that in 2009. It wasn't working. 2010, I left the band I was in called Works in Progress because they weren't serious enough. And I was thinking, we're actually bringing a community together. Every time we did a show, people would say things like, you're talking about the revolution. Regardless of what your song was about, people would be interested in this idea that you're bringing some sort of political or theoretical ideas. So that informed what I was going to do. So the next year, I had my first what if moment concerning this project. I thought, what if I could bring the commercial acumen of something like the Super Blondes together with the sort of political and ideological information that I bring to something like my band, together with a book and something else. And that happened in 2011. So I started writing a novel. 2012, I thought I'm going to bring some kind of street game to this. That was when I first heard the word ARG. I'd never heard it before then. I didn't even really know it was what you'd call the beginnings of an ARG. So I play tested a street game that was linked to City of Conspiracy, linked to the first draft of the story, in which people came and they walked up and down between London Bridge and Tower Bridge, and they found clues along the side of the road. And these were just little clues that helped solve not the mystery of the novel, but helped you establish the timeline of the boy that was murdered in the novel. So it was like a prequel to what was going on in the novel itself. The people I got, I just put up an ad on Gumtree, and I'll show you the ad to show you how I think you should and you shouldn't put an ad up on Gumtree for this kind of thing. So that really informed me. I thought this is a great way to do things. You can bring people into the real space and you can make the story sort of live beyond the page. So I did some immersive theatre events at the Brunel Museum in Rotherhithe, which is a beautiful place. They have this shaft that goes underground where they dug the first tunnel underneath the Thames. It's a grade 2 listed building, and I ran something there. We had about 200 people. It was brilliant. In the end, we trashed the place, and I'll tell you this story about that later. It's not one of my proudest moments. But off the back of that, I was selling tickets for that via something called Living Social, one of those daily deal apps. They were interested in having interesting stuff on their website, so I was selling tickets for that. Off the back of that, Groupon gave me a call, followed by Amazon Local, who were launching at the same time, Time Out, and even something called Travel Zoo, which I didn't know about at the time, but I think was interesting. I might try and pursue in future. They all sort of got in touch and said, we want something, but we don't want to put the thing that we've seen of yours, we don't want to put that on our website. We don't think that's appropriate for our market. So I thought, well, conspiracy theory, I've been researching London streets for so long, it'd be good to do some walking tours. So I did my first round of walking tours in the second half of 2013, which is a walking tour that goes from, say, around Covent Garden, ends up by St. Paul's, about an hour. It's a standard walking tour, but it involves some of the Conducttr technology because just like the book, and in fact, just like the live theatre events, you can text the characters that are off screen. So you're interacting with the characters all the time via your device if you choose. In the theatre events, you kind of have to. In the book, it would make sense to because that's how you get the next plot point. On the walking tour, it was a choice that you could make. So I did my first round of walking tours in 2013, started in July and August, and then went on to the rest of the year. And then in October, I did my second round of immersive theatre events. And by that time, I'd really learned how to do it. Like the first one was like a really euphoric rush. I was really happy to get it done. I'd never put on a theatre event before, so it was very chaotic. I mean, on top of that, we were live streaming a part of it from there to ArgFest in Seattle. So I was trying to juggle that at the time, and it was really a bit of a stressful day. But the second one, by the time I did this one in October, it was actually really good. You could think, okay, how are people interacting with the content? How are they going around? What's their experience, user experience? And I saw people come out of it just like, whereas before the first one was like, we loved it, we hated it. You know what I mean? It really divided the audience. The second round was like, usually people were very much into it. They'd interacted in a positive manner. 2014, I sort of taken a break because the original plan was to get this book out there. And all this other stuff was meant to be supporting that. And I actually got to a stage where people in the industry were reading my book and going, this sounds really interesting. Yeah, this is really good. And they're, oh, I'd like to see further iterations of this. I'd like to see better versions of this. So 2014 so far has really just been trying to make it better. But it all started from a conversation. So this is the studio I used to run in Bermondsey, 2005. Like doesn't look like much, but we used to have big artists, people like Asher D was in there, Lethal Bizzle, all these sort of hip hop artists. And they always, like after we'd recorded, we'd have conversations. And these conversations would be about who runs the world or what's really going on. You know, we'd sit down, we'd discuss issues, but it would usually be from a paranoid, slightly illogical perspective. So, my business partner at the time was also obsessed with conspiracy theories. So I went into this trying to prove all this wrong. But it was such an interesting theme that it just stuck with me. And that's kind of what informed my next creative project. So I had a plan. As I detailed it, it starts off with something like this. I started just drawing rubbish on the wall. I've got a little office in my place, and I just started drawing different bits and bobs of the real world that I wanted to feed into this story. So this gets refreshed every 3 or 4 months. It's just stories of how I can link real world stories into conspiracy theories that exist and then fictionalize it. So that's kind of my working mechanic, I guess. But my initial real plan was that it would be serial fiction. There'd be a staggered release of material. It'd be a short time span, time limited, and it'd be all in world. Like it wouldn't be, like people wouldn't realize that it was a fictional experience. I didn't stick to that at all. All of this has gone out the window. As I launch the second book, which I want to be a choose your own adventure book, I'm going to make that serial fiction. I'm going to release material staggered because I've found that as I've built a community around the thing, people are some people are hungry. They want more stuff. And if you don't have stuff to give them right then, you kind of lose their interest. And there is a lot of content. There's like 80 songs that are recorded because a lot of it's delivered via rap songs. There's a book. There are these 2 theatre events. There are a lot of things that people could be interacting with, and one of which was filmed. But I haven't strategically thought how to do this. This is why I was trying to kind of apologize for my incompetence at the beginning. So you can understand that what I could have maybe achieved if I'd thought about this more strategically. All in world. The reason I didn't do that was there was an ethical consideration. With conspiracy theories, especially with the conspiracy theory walking tour, you attract the type of person who is intensely interested in conspiracy theories. Now, if somebody's intensely interested in conspiracy theories and you're explaining about something that's real and then trying to make a leap into something that's fictional, that person might well conflate the 2 things. And I think that's a very dangerous thing. Like I've had people coming up to me, like the first tour we did, it was 9 o'clock at night. We meet at Covent Garden. We walk up to Freemasons Hall. There are 30 or so people behind me. I've got to say something to them. This is Freemasons Hall. This building dates from so-and-so. The Freemasons, you know, very famous people such as Winston Churchill, George IV. And you go on and tell them this stuff. And one guy asked me, should we smash it up? I said, not on my tour, you don't smash it up. But he asked me, I asked him, where did you guys meet? He said, we met in jail. I'm okay. So at that point, I made a real decision. I'm not going to conflate the real world and the fictional world too much. Because although that was my initial intent, there's an ethical consideration. You meet people, and that might form a part of whatever they're into or whatever their belief is. And that informs the ad. The original ad I put up to get testers for my original thing was this. Yeah, test my ARG. I just learned the word. I buy you beer. You heard right, that's it. I created a fantastic involving game. I put some qualifying questions there. You can see the last one is showing how low the bar was, really. And being Gumtree, I didn't get a huge amount of positive response. I got 10 people who gave me a real response. And I said, cool, let's come along. Let's come along on this Saturday. And only of them 4 turned up. And I wanted to walk them through this street game. Now, we did, but unfortunately, Conducttr didn't work. I hadn't set it up correctly. So I had to go with them. Instead of them texting and emailing to get the next clue point, I had to just tell them after they spotted the thing they were meant to find. I had to be, oh, like this. But it did lead to a result, which was, they found this, which was the final clue that proves that TJ and his girlfriend, TJ's the name of the character, were in this particular place with the villain of the piece, is this shoe that was lost. And they found the shoe and they got it and they said it was very involved, and we had some drinks afterwards and they were like, oh yeah, I thought it was very good. Some bits were boring. We really liked the fact that we were playing along though. It was kind of exciting. So I thought, okay, this is really good. I've got something here. I'm going to do this again. Well, this was my second attempt at it. I thought I'd try doing it completely in-world. So I did another Gumtree ad there. And it reads, they found me and made me do it. This is from the point of view of another character in the novel. They came in the morning when the sun was over the bridge and have dogged me for days. There was nothing I could do except obey them. The only people that I could turn to were here in the City of Conspiracy, which is referencing City of Conspiracy. There was a problem with this. I didn't realize how much Gumtree was for, like a haven for vigilantes and people and vigilantes who can't spell or punctuate. They were just sending me messages saying, what did they do to you? We'll come and get these people. So I thought this was a bad approach. And I think it was symptomatic of my problem, which is how do you show people this thing, sometimes showing them in world and sometimes outside world? How do you give them the difference? So yeah, I wouldn't do it like that again. So after all this testing, I did another draft of the novel, and I thought, I'm going to have a live event. So I started writing again. These are some of the conspiracy books over there. And I got involved with Conducttr and asked them, oh, that should go somewhere. Yeah, there we go. I asked them to help me plan my live event, which we did in July of 2013, the first immersive theatre event. And there's Belen sort of helping. Well, actually, I think she's pretending to read there, and there's... I'm doing the same. But we'd spent all day sort of, you know, what are the themes of your playing? What is the narrative actually going to be? What's the user experience? We sort of really interrogated it, which I found very helpful. And then here was the launch event. This had been my focus. I thought I was going to do sort of an old school marketing campaign and there'd be this big event and then everyone would love it. And I thought that would be my work done. It was called Initiation. Obviously, Initiation. The plan was to have part concert, part seance, part initiation into the Illuminati. That was the plan. This here is the girl who is supposed to be a rabbit hole. She's the girlfriend of the murdered boy, and she's attending the initiation event in order to try and find the identity of the killer. The thing is, nobody knew this. All the people who attended, they sort of realized that other people were sort of actors presenting scenes, but nobody knew that she was an actress. So they were walking around and going, oh, well, I like it. How do you feel? Well, I'm not so sure. And they'd say this to her. So it was quite interesting that they didn't pick up she was part of the experience. Oh, yeah, she's got a number on her front because, as I said, it was being live streamed to ArgFest, and that was a clue for a puzzle they were solving on the day, which involved loads of binary. These are two of the actresses that were used. One was playing a psychic. One was sort of meant to be like a tantric yoga coach that was making people do things with the aim of helping advance them to a next level so they could go through this cult, eventually join the Illuminati. That was the rationale behind the night. This is the streaming to ArgFest. It was streamed to Seattle, and they had this puzzle that involved loads and loads of binary to kind of keep them busy. These are some kids that just turned up and were sort of at the Brunel Museum in Rotherhithe. They turned up at the shaft and were like, you know, like 14-year-olds are, what are you doing? So I said, we're doing this thing, and do you want to get involved? And they did. They were They were in sort of, I think they were, I didn't get quite if they were in care or something or were foster home. But like, no, that's nothing to do with this. It's like, but what happened is, I said, if you get your guardian's permission, you can sort of come and, you know, you can come and join in. So I got their guardian's permission and they did this for 4 hours and I gave them each 20 quid and they were happy with that. So, but that's kind of another thing I've tried to do. Whenever an opportunity like that arises, you can't miss that, can you, these kids? So this is the initiation. This girl here, I don't know if you can see her, is being initiated. We're in this underground chamber. People are holding, it's completely dark, but this photographer's managed to light it. So we used candles and this. It was all about style over substance, really, for the first event. But it kind of worked for a lot of people in the room. This is the room again. We're about to do some stuff. As I said, they called me up from group 1 and started asking about the tours. So this is the kind of thing we do. We have groups from 10 to 30. We walk around central London, pointing towards conspiracy theory related buildings. This is United Grand Lodge of England, Freemasons Hall. Now, some of these things feature in the novel, like this symbol at the top is in the tour. So I explain the meaning of that in like very general terms and point people towards it as we're doing the tour, but it also features in the novel. So it's actually quite key to the self-identification of some members of one of the factions of the Illuminati in the novel. This location features in one of the scenes in the novel, Puerorum House, which is again on Great Queen Street. And this does as well, the Temple Bar. This is the dragon at the top of the Temple Bar, which separates the City of London and City of Westminster. And that's another scene that features in the novel. So as you go around and you're doing this tour, you're kind of being familiarized with the story world of the novel. As I said, the second event I ran, Illuminated, the second immersive theatre event, was actually a lot better. But unfortunately, I didn't record that in any way. I just have the flyer. So it's a hip-hop murder mystery starring you and the Illuminati. Brief outline of the plot. It was a music video shoot where a murder had gone on, and the manageress was from one faction of the Illuminati. The people who were looking after the rap artist were another faction, and they'd done the murder to stop his career. I guess this to me is the most important bit. What were the challenges? So for me, lack of logistical experience. Like I didn't know how to put a lot of things together. Really, I just sort of was struggling blind. I didn't have any money, but that wasn't the biggest deal. For me, not knowing what to do next, what order to do things, not being strategic, I think that was a big problem over the period. Unreliability of collaborators, and I pay everyone. Anyone that works for me will get money if they can. If they've asked for it and they need money or whatever, I'll do whatever I can. I'll try and charge tickets up front so that people can get paid. But even so, I still had the first theatre event, one actor didn't turn up, another was completely rubbish, so I had to do his part, which meant that the concert that was going to happen didn't happen. They didn't get a concert. The people just got the theatre event without the concert. Desire of audience for more content than I had. So people who liked it, they're like, yeah, we want more stuff. And I didn't have it. Lack of strategic thinking after projects had changed direction. Like walking tours. I think the walking tours is a standalone business, but I have no desire to run it. So it's kind of, I have no desire to run it as a full-time business. It's kind of, people are always calling about these walking tours that were advertised just for a short period of time. And same thing with the daily deal sites. They always want that. Perfectionism. Working as a solo creator, you have an ideal about what you'd like to achieve, and you may not achieve it. Lack of recording systems early on, so I didn't record how people felt and what they were doing early on, which was a bit of a problem. And I say lack of strategic input from hefty partners. Like getting Amazon Local on board was a good thing for me. It meant loads of people wanted to come and do this walking tour. But to me, for Amazon Local, it would have been just an easy step for them to say, okay, well, when you do your book release, we should do the same thing. We should merge the two. But Amazon weren't interested in that. They were only interested in, okay, we'll sell this, and the book thing's a separate thing. But as I say, not money. money wasn't a big problem for me at all, because every time I needed money, I just said, we're going to do something and let's charge for it up front. And people were happy to pay if they were interested enough in the idea of the thing. It's kind of like a Kickstarter, I guess, but I just didn't know about Kickstarter at the time. But it's the idea of just getting your money up front and then going with it, and you manage to create something. Oh yeah, this was a problem. So, at the original launch event, we were in a grade 2 listed building. It was the tunnel that was used to dig the shaft underneath the Thames. So where they first dug a tunnel underneath the Thames, Brunel dug this shaft. And you can still go there, it's in Rotherhithe. Now, at my event, people were meant to draw on these sheets I provided a symbol that represented the identity of their inner spirit guide. Okay, it was one of the tasks they had to do to go through to the next level, to become a member of the Illuminati. But some people started drawing on the walls, and it's a grade 2 listed building, and obviously that got me in a little bit of trouble. So these are some of the mementos they left at the Brunel Museum. There you go. These are the clean ones. There are a lot of there are obviously a lot of cocks, but hey. So what's next? Release of Rejig novel. That'll be early 2015. I want to do a series of street games, various sort of events and, not events, various experiences that take between 10 minutes and an hour at various scenes in London. I want to do a choose your own adventure fiction in this story world. So I've started writing various strands of the other characters in the novel, not the main mystery, which is a journalist whose friend gets murdered and he uncovers a plot by the Illuminati to take over that faction of the Illuminati in London. An organized release structure for the music, because there is literally, already there are over 80 songs in this project. And it's kind of like, City of Conspiracy music, here it is. That's how I've delivered it to people so far. But it'd be really good to sort of put it in like, okay, this is Augustus Delgado, who's an old reggae guy who does some of the songs in there. Okay, this is Augustus Delgado's music. We'll give him a press release, put him out as a real artist, and just see what happens. That would be really cool. Augmented reality, well, one of the themes of it is magic. So I want to explore augmented reality as a way of getting more information from the page. I've looked at the NFC thing that I've seen advertised on the Conducttr website. The thing that's been the biggest surprise to me is a venture into the tourism market, seeing how many tourists have got involved with this walking tour thing, seeing how many people talk about wanting to get involved with conspiracy theories worldwide. So I'm thinking I might try and do something in that, because Travel Zoo have got in contact a few times and I just didn't have anything for them. An interesting thing that came up after we did one murder mystery event was provision of interactive events for training in forensic science. I had like a college get in touch with me saying they wanted somebody to put on a similar event to the one I'd actually done for their students of forensic science. So that's something I'd like to do. Non-fiction ebooks, I want to do it in world, so I want them to have like a point of view, but I want them to be non-fiction about these conspiracy theory subjects, because I think it'd be interesting to start challenging some of the people who come at it like it's a real world thing. And documentary, that again from the same perspective. But all in all, these are sort of my goals for the next step of it. I'm currently looking for collaborators in the visual field, because I've got no one around me that's kind of really skilled in that. But I feel that I've managed to make something that's generating income, it's doing well, and it's got a lot of real potential for being something that goes to the next level. So I'm currently working on, as I say, rejigging the novel, and that should be out early 2015. So thank you very much. And any questions? We got time. Cool. Yeah.
Just quickly regarding the music, will that be all original material or will it be sort of reissued licenses?
No, it's all original material. All music was recorded and written for this project. Yeah.
I've got two questions. First one is, I can see the evolution of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And on route you've tried certain things with positives and negatives.
Yeah.
I guess from that is, other than say your friends, have you built a loyal audience base? Are you building a loyal base? So that's question number one. And the second question is, you talk about monetizing it.
Yeah.
Is it only by event, or have you figured out a way to have a long-term monetary flow? It seems to be event by event, and I can see how you charge, that's covered. But a business generates continual reviews. How do you meld it all together? So and I guess the first one feeds into the second one, really.
Okay, in terms of the community, in terms of paying customers, we've had around 1,100, 1,200 people that paid for various aspects of this content. I came at this because I was in a band that was kind of doing a lot of gigs, and I wanted more something that was, like you said, business has a long-term monetary flow than being sold on event by event. I don't think this project has got there yet. I think that will come from having a bigger pool or community around it. So a community of around 1,000 is cool, but if I could times that by 10, I believe that would be enough that every time I release a new piece of content, there'd be enough people interested in buying it that'd be worth monetizing. Does that make sense for what you're?
So I was just wondering if your thought process is, do you set up a hub where you subscribe and you keep just getting content there where you retain your customer base? And I was wondering how loyal were your customers? Are you having people keep coming back?
Yes, this is my problem about not having enough stuff to give them, or not being strategic in the way that I've distributed content. I'm having people coming back, but they're like, okay, when are you doing your next event? Well, I'm not doing another event till I finish this. Do you know what I mean? My timetable is not the same timetable as these customers, this customer base. Does that answer your question?
It does. I guess what you also, a final one on that, if you say 100, what's your retention like? 100%, 50%, 25%?
Retention, that's the thing. I'd say somewhere around 50%. Yeah, like if you look at the mail, I don't really delve into analytics, but if you're looking the MailChimp analytics, on the mailing list, we get 60% openings, click-throughs will be about 30%. In terms of people coming back, there'll be a general, there'll be a general flow of people calling, asking about things that I can't provide during the year, which is in its way frustrating.
Thank you. Have you considered in any of these moments of interaction with the public a user-generated content for the experience? And if yes, how did it go?
I've considered it. I'll be honest, as I was sort of doing most of the organization behind it, I thought that would be nice, wouldn't it? If they could take some photos of this scene and upload it. But I never went there. But it would probably be a very good way of keeping engagement high with less work. So it's probably something I should do.
In terms of it being a project that's kind of started with zero, what was the most effective way of getting audience?
Partners.
Pardon?
Partners.
Right.
Groupon, Living Social, Amazon, Time Out. When they all featured it, the website would get 2,500, 3,000 hits a day from none. It just went up as soon as they advertised it. It was very useful.
Cool.
Any more questions?
Thanks very much.
Thank you.